Good morning and welcome to BBOC Live. It's 10:30 a.m. Eastern on Saturday, and this is the Week 3 college football betting preview. I'm Stuckey, and joining me, as always, my fellow BBOC co-hosts, Collin Wilson, Mike Calabrese, and the one and only Josh Nunn, aka Duck, who gets a main chair now on the show. Happy to have him, and that doesn't mean we won't get the D block with Duck going through some of his FCS looks later in the show. We'll get to our marquee matchup in a bit between Georgia and Tennessee. We'll each give out two best bets. We'll put together a money line parlay and just have a good time as well. Thank you to everyone for joining us. Make sure, if you haven't already, to download the award-winning Action Network app. Also, we'll drop some quick slips in the YouTube chat. Make it easy for you to bet if you want to follow along with any of our action. And then on Twitter, make sure you at Playbook. If you see any bets you like or you want the Playbook bot to put together a bet for you, it'll do that. Make it so much easier. Take away that manual work. Gentlemen, let's get right into it. I'm going to set the bar low for us today. Let's just be better than UCLA. That's our goal to start things off. But let's get to our first best bets. Colin, kick things off.
Hey, breaking news. Austin Simmons looks like he's going to play today. I think that's great news for the Arkansas Razorbacks. You and I both agreed that we like them on the side, but I'm going to take the over in this game for a number of reasons. Ole Miss, first off, they can't defend the run, and Mike Washington Jr. is running like a madman. This Arkansas offensive line is better than the version than it was last year. Ole Miss is near dead last in defensive line yards. That means they are not controlling the trench whatsoever, and they're outside the top 100 in PFF tackling, so it's very sloppy mechanics coming out of that defense. Arkansas's tempo is actually up to 25 seconds per play. That's more than what Petrino's used to. Ole Miss pretty steady in their fast offense at 22 seconds per play. And Arkansas is top 50 in pass rush against, the offensive lines that they've gone up against. Alabama A&M's offensive line, Arkansas State's offensive line. They're 95th in defensive rush efficiency. This defensive line, you and I talked about it during the preseason. Arkansas didn't open up the wallet and get anybody that can cause any kind of disruption, which means Austin Simmons just have some more turnover-worthy plays, some more interceptions. So we'll see how his health is. But I think there's just going to be a ton of points here. Really sloppy, bad defense on both sides.
Yeah, that Ole Miss offensive line is an issue, but the Arkansas defensive line isn't great. Simmons is getting rid of the ball lightning fast. So, but if you look at some of his numbers, if he's not hitting that first read, it's a little troubling. So I think, look, this is an easy game plan for Arkansas. I think you're just dropping eight. Like you're not going to get much of a pass rush, and then you're just going to try to force Ole Miss to drive the length of the field, and then hope that Simmons makes some key mistakes. Mike, you're headed to my beloved Maction. What do you got?
Yeah, I'm looking for every way to fade Kent, who, by the way, Bill Connolly ranks every team in the college football universe 1 to, I think, 765th. Shout out to Oberlin. Kent is 190th. So it's time to fade these guys 23 and a half, 24, 25, whatever's out there. Go ahead and lay it with the Bulls because Kent's not going to be able to run against this really stout Buffalo run defense. They are 133rd in run blocking per PFF, and the only way they've been sparking big plays is through play action. And when you dig into the advanced stats, Buffalo is really buttoned up in terms of being able to handle play actions. And also, on top of that, their big point of emphasis year over year. Even though they won 9 games last year, they gave up too many aerial explosives. They're already in the top 25 in terms of limiting aerial explosives this season. And then when Buffalo does have the ball, this is just going to be a replay of last season when they dog walked Kent 43-7 near the end of the season. They're going to be able to run. They have a top 10 offensive line in terms of run blocking this season. And Al-Jay Henderson, who popped off for 185 and a score last year, I see a very similar game for him. So I'll say Buffalo 42, Kent 10, just, trying to make it respectful. But I think they're going to win by north of 4 touchdowns. So go ahead and lay the big points with Buffalo.
Laying over 3 touchdowns at Buffalo in league play, it sounds disgusting. I wish you well, but I can't bet Kent State. Just I don't even want to look at it. I'll bet a ton of bad teams, and I bet a lot today, and I'll be wrong a lot today, but I just can't bet Kent. So it's Buffalo or nothing. Duck, you also are going action here?
We're riding with my action. Yeah, Eastern Michigan, Kentucky over. We gave it out on the G5 Deep Dive podcast at 44 and a half. I think we're still good at 48 and a half. EMU, horrific defensively, 543 yards per game given up, 8 yards per play they're surrendering. Just in 2 games this year, 623 rushing yards on the ground and 7 rushing scores against them. They're 129th nationally in defensive success rate, 133rd in EPA per play defensively, just 122nd in defensive havoc. We shouldn't see very much pressure in the face of Cutter Boley. I think they throw it around here a little bit. It's kind of time for Kentucky, in my opinion, to really wash that Ole Miss stink off of them, have a little fun before they go into the bye week. I fully expect for them to run for 7 yards a carry. We should see a ton of scoring opportunities for Kentucky. EMU will chip in 7 or 10, but this thing will go over pretty quickly. I think Kentucky could put up a 50 spot today.
All right, I will try to keep my perfect record going. So I got to go, and I'm going to go with Ugly Dogs. If this is your first time watching this show, that's mostly what you're going to get from me. I'm going with Tulsa plus 14, I think is consensus out there. Duck, we're going head to head. Last week, everyone, including Duck, is betting Tulsa like they knew the final score. Now, this week, I see Duck fading Tulsa. No one wants a part of Tulsa. That means it's time for me to jump in. First of all, it's Service Academy laying 14 or more. Always going to look to fade that. Sub 40% since 2003. If you go all the way back, Navy 7-18 against the spread as a favorite of 14 plus. They still have issues on the back end of their defense. Their offensive line is not as strong, and it looks like Tulsa's going to go with this kid Baylor Hayes. I think Kirk Francis is out. He was a disaster early. Hayes looked good when he came in. It wasn't his fault. And I actually think he's a better fit for this offense. You might say, well, why didn't he start in the first place? Well, I think they just went with the veteran Francis, and Hayes was just a freshman. But Hayes came with new head coach Trey Lamb from ETSU, knows the offense. I'd rather have him in there. I think he's a better fit. Give me the 14 home hype spot. There's actually some momentum around the Tulsa program for this home conference over. So I think they're going to get a decent crowd, and I think they keep this close. So give me Tulsa plus the 2 touchdowns. Duck, we're going head to head there. All right, before we get to our moneyline parlay, we are about to roll out some awesome updates to the Action app, and the best way to get the most from the app is by being an Action Pro subscriber. We'll talk to our guy Duck here soon again about the FCS slate, and he has been a CLV machine this year on that front. And pro subs can get real-time alerts whenever he posts a pick. So sign up today with promo code BBOC20 for $20 off an annual subscription. All right, let's build our weekly moneyline parlay. Collin, kick things off.
Yeah, let's go with Vanderbilt. We're going to do the Diego Pavia, Cedric Alexander manpower run concepts that South Carolina has severe struggles in defending so far this season. 36% success rate against manpower run concepts. That was about the number they were last year with a better defensive line. So I expect Vanderbilt to control the trench on that side of the ball and the other side of the ball on defense as well. The Gamecocks have already allowed 12 tackles for loss off the offensive line, and Vanderbilt's already created 15 tackles for loss. So I see both lines of scrimmage, a loss to South Carolina and a win by Vanderbilt. South Carolina barely edged South Carolina State in yards per play. Something's wrong with the Gamecocks. Let's go with Vanderbilt.
Yeah, defense takes a big step back. They were dealing with some injuries. It looks like they're going to be healthier than expected, maybe down one starter. But look at the data point. Both played Vatek. One dominated Vatek. The other basically played him to a draw on a neutral field. And yeah, there's some issues on South Carolina right now. I do like that. Mike, you're going with a prop here.
Yeah, I'm going to go for an anytime touchdown for KC Concepcion from A&M against this Notre Dame defense. And Colin Klein is utilizing him in a very similar fashion to how he was playing as a freshman at NC State. Through 2 games, 13 targets, 9 receptions, 145 yards, 3 total touchdowns, plus a punt return touchdown. I mean, when you look into the game flow, he's only really played 6 quarters. So I think it's more than likely, given the fact that they're an underdog in this game, that he's going to get 8 to 9 targets in the passing game, a little bit of a boost in terms of our chances for a touchdown with what he does on special teams. But not only is he a big play threat to be able to take it to the house from anywhere on the field, he also was targeted multiple times in the red zone by Marcel Reed. 2 of those touchdowns last week coming in the red zone. So I think that's an incredible, upside for an undersized receiver. Usually you think of red zone targets targets. You want somebody 6'3" or bigger to win some of those jump balls. But Concepcion was being targeted repeatedly. So I really like that angle. And then finally, Notre Dame's defense, in my opinion, I wrote it up in the preseason. They took a step back from absolutely elite to just merely really good. And I think it has to do with their defensive coordinator. The downgrade from Al Golden to Chris Ash, I think, can't be overstated. So I think there's going to be an opportunity for A&M to find similar success in the same way that the Miami Hurricanes did in week 1 against this Irish secondary.
Yeah, slot is also attackable. Is a Concepcion return, right? So
Yes.
you could get a return score also. Uh, so like that. Duck, back to the Mac. You're stealing all my thunder. I love this though. Back to the Mac.
Yeah, I think it's a good spot for Bowling Green at home, plus 168 on the money line. Liberty has just been a complete turd so far this
Bad.
season with two back-to-back, just so disappointing performances. Really struggled for three quarters against FCS Maine. And then in a real big game, in a revenge spot for them, just did not show up against Jacksonville State. We knew it in the first three drives that they were complete toast. 338 yards given up on the ground last week, 7 yards per carry, and they never did anything in game to change anything defensively. They didn't load the box. They didn't force Gavin Wimsatt to throw over the top. Really stunning the coaching, how they allowed Jacksonville State to run the ball. They won the game with 52 yards passing. It was really quite shocking. So you look at last week for Bowling Green, Drew Pine completed 15 straight passes in the second half against Cincinnati. And really, the offense moved the ball well throughout in that game. BG has shown a ton of fight. I think they line up with this one in big personnel, 12 personnel, 13 personnel. They're going to go big on big. Liberty's going to struggle with that. I think the spot is bad for Liberty. Now with the playoff hopes dash for Liberty, they really shift their focus to conference play. And if there is a non-conference game Liberty really wants to get, it's the one they play next week, not this week. So let's take a stab with Bowling Green on the money line, plus 168.
I like that. My Falcons. Yeah, the what really won that? I mean, I know Corleone went out in the second half, but both the most experienced part of Bowling Green's team is their offensive line. And Cincy was just not able to get any pressure whatsoever. And you're right, Liberty looks very poor. I'll put you guys all on the spot. Duck, I'll start with you. Who wins Conference USA?
I talked about this earlier in the week. It's so wide open now with Liberty losing. Jacksonville State looks like they're in the mix. I mean, UTEP still could be in the mix, but I
UTEP,
like
baby.
Florida. I like Florida International 10-1. I think they have looked really, really solid defensively. They went toe to toe with Penn State for two quarters. I've been very impressed with FIU, and at 10-1, if you go back and look at their schedule, they've got two really tough conference games. They're both at home. I think FIU is going to be a major player in this league come late November.
I like their secondary. Their secondary has some juice, and it's definitely much improved. Colin, throw out one name.
Jacksonville State has been better than what we thought so far. Can they win in conference? They've been better than what we thought they were going to be. So I'll throw out a name.
Calabrese, you got a name?
Oh, UTEP, baby. The Reclamation Project, Malachi Nelson. He's been everything that he was hyped up to be, 4 or 5 years ago, coming out of high school. Scotty Walden gets it done. Give me some Minor Nation.
That was my future, so I'll go with the Minor Nation. But for the money line parlay, we have Vandy, Concepcion touchdown, Bowling Green, and I'll throw in Georgia Tech. This is what Brenke does. Top 25 games, a dog. He just wins these games. Clemson's not at 100%. I tried to tell Colin countless times that Clemson is extremely overrated coming into the year. It looks like they haven't improved at all. There's issues all over. Give me the Rambling Wreck at home. So it's Vandy, BG, Concepcion touchdown, Georgia Tech. I think it pays around 35-1. We'll drop that quick slip in the chat. By the way, quick reminder on Playbook. If you like that, you can at Playbook. You can say, hey, create this ticket for me. If you like anyone's ticket, just at Playbook. It'll create the ticket for you. Give you a link right to your sportsbook. You don't have to go searching for everything. All right, let's get to our marquee matchup between Georgia and Tennessee. Georgia has absolutely dominated this head-to-head in recent history. Colin, what are you seeing here?
I'm going first half over. Kirby Smart came out and said it in his presser right off the start. The reason why there's so many points scored at the beginning of this series and these games is because they just have not been prepared for that tempo. They can't simulate it in practice. They can't simulate what Josh Heupel's stretch spread is. The secondary is a little bit shocked by it, and it takes them a couple of quarters to adjust. This game has had at least 30 points in the first half every season since 2019. Six different corners for Georgia right now have given up, of 21 targets, 13 catches. They've given up a few explosives. I expect Tennessee to be hot from the start. I do think, however, the Georgia run game is going to come into play somewhere mid-second quarter, third quarter, but we'll play first half over here, and then expect Georgia to try to make it a phone booth game and beat them up on the defense.
Duck, what do you got here?
This was a spot I had circled for Georgia in the offseason. I'm stunned at the perception change of these two teams based on their non-conference results. It just seems like one where nobody cares less about the non-conference final scores than Kirby Smart. He uses these games situationally for his team to improve. Nobody cares more about blowing out these non-conference opponents than Josh Heupel. And now we've got this perception that Tennessee is going to be able to hang here. But when you go back and look at Sunbelt Joey Aguilar over the last two seasons, 50 big time throws, 51 turnover worthy plays. But when he's pressured, that ratio gets significantly worse. Just 11 big time throws, 26 turnover worthy plays. The decision making becomes poor. The throws become poor. He short arms the throws. And I just kind of feel like we're going to see Georgia and their defensive front take over this game in the middle quarters. It's not going to go well for Tennessee and for Joey Aguilar for trying to just really get the ball down the field and find themselves in scoring opportunities frequently. I trust Gunnar Stockton. He's been in big game situations before, pressure situations. I think he'll be efficient enough to get the job done for Georgia, and their run game will take over late in the third quarter and beyond. I laid it with Georgia -3.5. I laid the game of the year 6.5. I still feel good with that. I went back for more at -3.5. I think Georgia wins this game by 10.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's no two ways about it. Kirby owns the Heupel offense. Four meetings, they haven't scored more than 17 points. They're averaging, I think, around Tennessee against Georgia is averaging around 2 touchdowns per game under Heupel. In all other games, they're averaging 40. Now, granted, this game is pretty difficult to handicap because Georgia doesn't show anything in these games against Little Sisters of the Poor. Amazingly, Kirby Smart is 0-15 against the spread as a favorite of 38 or more. They don't show anything. I remember a game against Kent State. Kent State was just dropping 8, and Kirby ran like the same mesh concept play like 8 times in a row. I think it was with Stetson Bennett. Like he's just working on things, not showing anything. So you don't really know what you're going to get. But from what I've seen, I don't really trust Bennett to just absolutely carve up this Tennessee secondary, even though they're without both their starting cornerbacks. And I do know that the Tennessee offense is a bit different this year, a little tighter splits. They're not throwing as deep, so it's a little different structurally. I think they're trying to like marry Aguilar and him getting there late with what he did and what Tennessee likes to do. But still, I think Georgia's defensive front, like you said, Duck, will dominate this game. I don't really trust Georgia's offense from what I've seen so far, even though I know they're kind of just not really showing much. So I'm going with the under here. I think that this is like, I don't know if I had to call it a 20, let's say like 27-17, 27-20 Georgia win. But again, don't know a lot because I think Syracuse is terrible. So like these teams haven't played anybody so far. So looking forward to watching that and learning a lot more about both. And no matter what, Tennessee fans, even if you lose this game and lose to Georgia again, you will always have last night on Big Ten Network getting to watch Nico lose 35-10 against New Mexico. All right. Oh, well, Mike, I forgot about you. You got a prop here?
Yeah, I mean, you guys are basically talking yourself into it kind of being a competitive game in the fourth quarter, but Georgia wins by a touchdown or 10 points. I was looking for a market to play that exact scenario. And if you look at Gunnar Stockton and Joey Aguilar to each record 10 or more passing yards in each quarter, it's at plus money at about plus 125. This is my way of going out and attacking a competitive game. This prop market, I figured it would be minus 200. Even with Nico last year at quarterback, this prop cashed. So it's a pure game flow kind of bet because if both offenses are required to play their entire playbook and to be aggressive for 4 quarters, this is going to easily cash as long as there's no quarterback injuries. The only bugaboo here is if Georgia's up by 14 or 21 in the fourth quarter and they go to a pure 4-minute offense and they basically, take the ball away from Stockton late. Otherwise, I think this is the best bet on the board to be able to say, can you complete really one pass each quarter? Because 10 yards is not much given, the way that these offenses operate. So I'm going to go ahead with that. Like I said, anything at plus money is a play on this exotic.
Well, not to throw any water on your bet, but is there a chance? Is there any chance in the world if Stockton is ineffective that Puglisi gets a look? I don't know, but talented kid. Like if their offense is just a complete disaster and Georgia really just doesn't trust their offense, I don't know. Very unlikely, but just a thought. All right, that'll do it for the marquee matchup. It's time for the D block, the duck block. Talking FCS. Get your odds boards up, get your sports books up, because these do move fast. A lot of the movement happens overnight, but there's still some value to be had in the lower limit FCS world. Duck, let's go through the FCS board. Morgan State. Didn't we talk about Morgan State last week?
Yeah, and they covered here. We had that one here on the show in the battle for Baltimore. I'm going back to Morgan State. When you look at Toledo, they really had their prove it game in the non-conference last week. They wanted to exact revenge for how that Western Kentucky game went last season. They thoroughly dominated the Toppers at home. Tucker Gleason got hurt in the second quarter.
Yep.
It's unsure if he's going to play here or if he's even going to play a lot. They're really being coy in the Toledo camp about what they're going to do there. But
Why play
really,
him?
this
Why play him?
yeah, why play him? Why play him? So you're looking ahead to conference play, and that's really what their focus has to be. Morgan State, we talked about it last week, really formidable in the trenches. Their quarterback play is significantly better. They're still an under the radar group, 2-0 against the number here. I think they keep this one tight. I can see Toledo winning by 3 touchdowns and being pretty comfortable in the fourth quarter, but 33.5, 34, this line's just too high.
All right, and then we're going to fade a program in rough shape.
Yeah, Davidson is just in such a bad way right now. Their staff is obviously at Rice. We've talked about that all summer, but Davidson just cannot compete in the trenches here defensively, giving up 545 yards per game and 8 yards per play. They surrendered 51 points to Georgetown in the opener and 55 to Elon. Both those programs are not as buttoned up as Tennessee Tech. Quarterback Kakoa Vesperis, who transferred in from Eastern Washington, has played brilliantly this year for Tennessee Tech, completing 67% with 5 touchdown passes. Tennessee Tech is averaging 8 yards per carry on the ground as a team. They are going to just destroy Davidson. It's really going to go sideways for the Wildcats pretty quickly here. I would assume Tennessee Tech puts up 55 or more. Davidson's going to struggle to score 10. So don't be afraid of the big number. Lay it with the Golden Eagles.
Yeah, kind of sad what has happened to Davidson. And we have one more in a good get right spot.
Yeah, I mean, everyone, you look at UTSA and the 0-2 record looks disappointing, but they were really competitive with Texas A&M in the second half, and then, they just got caught by the G.J. Kinney offense in Texas State last week, but a complete get-right spot here. Incarnate Word is still being priced as if they were last year's FCS power. They're not going to sneak up on UTSA. These teams are only 22 miles apart. UTSA will score a ton of points here, and Incarnate Word does not have the offense to match score for score. Lay it with UTSA. I think we can still find 18.5 or so, but still good on the current price with the Roadrunners here. Meet.
I'll put you on the spot. Are you part of this Duquesne money?
I'm not on the Duquesne money, no. And if we see this continue to creep down a little bit here before kickoff, I would probably take a stab here on Lehigh. I'm really high on Lehigh. They really truncate the games down, play really good defense, very slow pace on offense, but they are not explosive. So it's hard for Lehigh to win by margin. But under a touchdown, I'm jumping in on the Mountain Hawks.
I did see you grab Ball State on the open as a dog. They're now favored over New Hampshire. You want to know how bad the MAC potentially is this year? Ball State opened as a home dog to New Hampshire. And then you got Kent State. You got Eastern Michigan, who lost at home to Long Island. The MAC,
Akron.
who hasn't scored yet. Kent State, like it's rough out there. Look, Bowling Green and Central Michigan are going to be more competitive than people thought, but the bottom, oof, it's rough out there.
Really bad.
All right, good stuff, Duck, and good luck. I actually agree with all of those, so good luck to you. And oh, by the way, do you want to do a bar bill bet on your Tulsa Golden Era game? But you're taking Navy this week, and I'll take Tulsa. We'll do it at 14 in a bar bill.
Yeah.
All right, head to head there for a nice bar bill bet. we do have one final order of business, and that is our final best bet. Colin, you started with Arkansas Ole Miss over, and you're going with another over.
Yeah, totals today. I'm seeing some very poor defenses, and the fact that Texas A&M has given up so many points really kind of opened up my eyes. What is going on with this team right now? I think Notre Dame is going to have their way on the ground with Jeremiah Love, Jadarian Price, CJ Carr looked very nimble, better than just a true freshman against Miami in the second half of that game. I think they're going to have some success against Aggies defense that right now is outside the top 100 in tackling and in defensive finishing drives. If you can get past the 40, you should get a touchdown against them. Texas A&M's already missed 22 tackles this year. That's not good. That is not what we expect from them. And you look at Utah State and UTSA, they've had 8 scoring opportunities. They've averaged 4.3 points in scoring opportunities against Texas A&M. You go to the other side of the ball, Calabrese has already mentioned it. I've been hot on Casey Concepcion since the second he stepped foot at NC State. What he does over the middle is just going to slice Notre Dame apart. Notre Dame's best part of their secondary is at the corner position. It's definitely not in between the hash marks. Casey Concepcion is going to do exactly what Malachi Tony did for Miami and slice up the Irish over the middle. I love the over here. I love the points.
Colin, will you say finishing drives?
Yeah.
Will you say it out loud?
Finishing drives for everybody.
Okay. I had a wager with someone that you would say it, and I'm not against rigging markets for my own benefit. I like this one, but my only concern is like Texas A&M and Elko. They play sometimes they'll just play coverage. Don't allow explosive plays. So like they're going to let Notre Dame run it. I do think Love has potential to hit some explosive runs, but like just the drive's going to take long, and then Notre Dame not playing as much man. Like, are they just going to play more zone here? And then because Reed can run it, and then you're just going to have a lot of long drives. And if you can't finish drives, then you're just going to get like long field goal clock bleeding. But on the surface, I do like this. That is my only concern. Calabrese, you are laying points with Trent Dilfer.
Yeah, strange bedfellows alert here, but you gotta fade Akron at this point. I mean, the program is in free fall. They can't hit a bowl game because their APR scores are too low. And how has that impacted the locker room? Well, they lost the first 2 weeks to Wyoming and in Nebraska 78 nothing. So the alarm bells are going off. And by the way, I don't think I've ever seen a stat like this. They got shut out by the Cornhuskers, which, on the surface, there's no shame in that. They played 46 separate players on defense alone. So they went to their 4 deep on defense, and Akron still couldn't score. So
Building depth, baby.
It's incredible how far they've fallen off. And, Finley is clearly not a quarterback that can elevate this offense on his own. He's not a dual threat where all of a sudden, if things break down, he can just make explosive plays happen. And then on the other side, I mentioned this last week when we cashed that over with UAB. The Blazers are a half team. At least they're bringing that offense to the table. 4 first half drives against Navy, 24 points. The second half, there was 2 separate lightning delays, so it threw off all their momentum. Against this Akron defense, who is absolutely lost, I think they're going to be able to move the football. If you look at just EPA per play, UAB 14th nationally, Akron on the defensive side of the ball 104th. And then finally, a nugget from our director of research, Evan Abrams. Teams coming off being shut out in back-to-back games across the last 20 seasons are 3-22 straight up and 7-16-2 against the spread. So I'll go ahead and lay this all the way up to the edge of 2 touchdowns with Trent Dilfer. I got to grit my teeth and put this play in, but I think this is a game that Trent is going to get, and it's certainly one that they need. They still have, an outside shot of getting into that conversation for bowl eligibility. Not only do they need to win this one, they need to feel really good about it when going away. So I'm going to go with UAB.
Can I get a producer to breathalyze Calabrese laying points with that UAB defense and his boy Trent Dilfer? Duck, what do you got?
Yeah, so this is an ugly one here, but Georgia Southern, a major savior season spot, one I had circled in the summer for the Eagles, projected 0-2 start, which they did. But now we've got a little line value here with Jacksonville State high off the conference win against Liberty, and now they're stepping back out of conference and going on the road. Jacksonville State defensively 131st in explosiveness surrendered, 127th in defensive pass EPA, 92nd in pass play success rate allowed. I think both of these teams will probably have some success on the opposing defenses, but I think Georgia Southern in a complete savior season spot, in one that they have to have. really get the job done at home here. Jacksonville State benefited from some short fields last week due to Liberty turnovers, really kind of inflated what their output looked like on offense.
And Liberty might just be
Uh,
bad.
and Liberty's really bad. Yeah. So I think we just got a lot more value in this line than what I projected it was going to be here at this point in the season. And I think it's really a bargain here with Georgia Southern only laying 3. So going with the Eagles.
That's a good spot. I'll give you one final good spot and another ugly dog to close things out. Let's go with Arkansas State. I think you can get 21.5 right now. Great spot here. Iowa State off the Cyhawk game. It's their fourth game. They've been to Dublin. They have conference play on deck. Campbell already came out this week, said he's worried about where his team is at physically. Maybe you pull your starters a little sooner. Maybe there's some guys that are nicked up. You rest them. Maybe you sit a couple guys. Regardless, it is a tough spot for Iowa State. I've seen Campbell just go super vanilla in these spots before. So I think Arkansas State's offense has enough juice. And by the way, has any team's wins aged worse than Iowa State? They beat Kansas State in week 0 by 3. And again, they could have lost. Kansas State should be 0-4. They beat South Dakota, who is a disaster. They lost a 17-point favorites to Lamar, and their quarterback had the same stat line versus Iowa State and Lamar. And then they beat Iowa, who can't complete a forward pass, and they barely beat them in that game, despite Iowa not being able to complete a forward pass. So, like, their wins. And Kansas State again loses last night. Looks horrendous. That game, that final score, they should have lost by 20. So, like, let's maybe pump the brakes on Iowa State. Give me the Red Wolves. I know their defense is horrible. Iowa State just might put up 50 again. It's definitely a concern, but I think Iowa State might, tough spot, might go a little light here. All right, that'll do it for us. Thank you to our producer, Gifford, on the back end. Thank you to Colin, Mike, and Duck for joining me. Most importantly, thanks to all of you for tuning in. Check out the Big Bets on Campus podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Subscribe, leave 5-star reviews. You know the drill. 959 Bad Beat voicemails. Call in, yell at us. We'll have a recap show tomorrow. Group of 5 guys back on Wednesday. We'll be back on Thursday to preview the week 4 slate. We are in the thick of it. Good luck to everyone out there today on all of your wagers. We'll see you same time next week, 10:30 a.m. Eastern. And make sure you catch us on the award-winning Action Network app. Cheers.